I would like to talk to you about an exciting opportunity. I just need minutes of your time to explain it, but it has the potential to transform your life.
It's not an illegal pyramid scheme, it's a direct selling network marketing company.
Is it shaped like a pyramid, the business structure?
It is shaped like a pyramid, yes.
Multi-level marketing, network marketing, direct selling companies. Pyramid schemes go by many names, and maybe you can even think of a few more by the end of this video. The basic design of the pyramid is that you have the first members, the people they recruit, and so on. Building and widening the pyramid as you go downwards. The higher up you are, the more you are paid as a portion of everyone's sales below you. Producers, distributors, associates, health gurus, Mary Kay ladies, whatever they call you. You have to either pay an entry fee when you join or make required purchases that you have to make in order to make money. Basically, even in an ideal scenario, about 85% of people working for these pyramid schemes are just consumers who think that they're laborers on the way to a better life. Because by design, this has an absolutely horrible success rate. Most pyramid schemes seem to line up with this. For example, about 93% of new skin distributors make no money each month from the company at all in 2015 on average.
According to documentation from USANA Corporate, 87% of associates fail to make enough from commissions to recover the cost of their qualifying purchases.
You can't get an overall result out of a system that it wasn't designed to produce. On some level though, don't we all know this? Isn't this something that's just common knowledge? And even if it isn't, if you Google most of these companies, it's not hard to find web pages like Herbalife scam weight loss product associated with fatal liver failure, and Amway, 5 realities of the multi-billion-dollar scam. Or just, is Amway legit?
World Global Network into Google. The results I got back were scam, customer service line, help, support, refund. Those were the results I got when I typed that into Google. So that pretty much says everything I need to know about it already, doesn't it?
And many of these companies have millions of distributors each.
They operate in over 100 countries and have over 50,000 employees and 6 million sales representatives.
It's amazing you can do when instead of paying for marketing, you dangle the carrot of a paycheck in front of the average person to do it for free. So why do people do it at all? Well, in some ways it's for a lot of the same reasons that people join a lot of groups. Some of them want the sense of community. Some of them are inspired by the idea of having their own business. Some join because they believe they can grow with the company. But for the most part, people join because they are compelled by the idea of having a way to earn enough money to elevate them in social class. A lot of the lower class join to become middle class, every bit as much as they join to get rich. And after they get established by a few wealthy founding members, MLMs grow fat off abusing the lower classes for free labor, as what amounts to contract work, and in doing so, they get all the vulnerable people to do millions of dollars in marketing sales for free. But there's also something to be said about the culture. There's this saying about Americans that I've used before on this channel. Socialism never took root in America because the poor see themselves not as an exploited proletariat, but as temporarily embarrassed millionaires. This quote certainly discounts a lot of the violent state oppression of socialist groups in America in the 19th and 20th centuries, but it's especially true of the people who really go for the idea of an MLM. They believe that they honestly deserve to be a millionaire, and that they can become one while actually helping their community. Unfortunately, this just isn't how an MLM is designed to work. But because we are so quick to believe in this idea, we are willing to sign up in the millions to take a visible financial risk to become the billionaires that we believe we deserve to be. To really get someone to ignore the reputable sources that say that they have a 7 to 14% chance at best to make any money at all,
because they falsely claimed consumers could earn substantial income. However, less than 2% earned anything noteworthy at all.
And most of the people who will make this money are the people on the top who joined years before you. These companies have to lay on a culture of prosperity and meritocracy in order to get you to ignore the basic red flags. And though it doesn't work on everyone, to those who commit to learning the culture and system, it can be pretty effective, at least until it drains you of all of your hard-earned money like a hungry leech.
People buy product more than they can sell. It sits in a garage. What happens? There's got to be an endpoint here at some point.
When they run out of money, there's an endpoint.
So how do they do this? Well, for one, they sell their status and wealth to the less fortunate.
Well, share with everybody. They want what we have. We got it.
I have wealth and status. Therefore, I did something right. Let me teach you what I did right after you open your wallet for me. It's seed faith. Give me a little bit of your faith and your money, and I will manifest so much wealth into your life. And for the people on the bottom of a stagnant class system, people in the lower middle class who are clearly fed up with their jobs, these are their targets. People who already want to believe that there is a better way. They're not wrong when they see the gaps in our system that allow so many to fall through the cracks, or to long for something different and as soon as they can get it. People who see this and don't have something to believe in are often more likely to latch on to ideas like this one. Comfortable ideologies where things make sense and they can have faith that their goals will be somehow transmuted into reality.
Said that the quasi-religious devotion of its affiliates is used by the company to conceal poor performance rates by distributors.
Faith is a state of mind that may be induced or created by affirmations or repeated instructions to the subconscious mind. You may convince the subconscious mind that you believe you will receive what you ask for. Making repeated affirmations to your subconscious mind is the only known method of developing the emotion of faith voluntarily.
So how do they find these people? It usually works like this. You run into them somewhere, maybe where you work. If they're able to flaunt their wealth, maybe by buying something from you to act as though they're above caring about how much it costs. The effective ones portray wealth so well that if you're dissatisfied at work, you might ask them, "So, what do you do?" And at this point, they play coy. They say it's hard for them to explain. See, they're on their way to meet with someone important. They own their own business, you see. But they're having an interest meeting next Tuesday. And if you're interested, they'd like for you to come. And if you actually ask about their job, you are.
Let's say you signed up 3 friends. Okay. So then you and I would help those 3 friends sign up their 3 friends and get their $700. Okay. Now there's 9 people there, right? Then we help those 9 people sign up their 3 different friends and they get a $700. So everyone kind of gets their money back.
Wait, you kind of get your money back?
Almost all of these schemes tell you that you can make money by just recruiting 3 or 4 or 5, let's say, 5. Then you let the 5 do their 5. That gives you 25. What they don't show you is that you could only do that 13 cycles, and you would exceed the population of the Earth.
In the meeting, they continue to portray the status of wealth in everything they do, and often training sessions, most of the time is focused on conventions that you'd have to pay for. People who've made a lot of money in the company, held up like paragons in the community. Often you'll learn their names and their stories, and even talk about them often amongst yourselves. About how you now have this opportunity to become just like them. Between the meetings, you'll often be given homework in the way of self-help books to read, Tony Robbins CDs to listen to, motivational podcasts to subscribe to, and stuff like that. Anything to encourage this idea that no matter who you are and how you personally relate to the system, you can be anything you want to be. One of the podcasts I became interested in because of this was a podcast on self-help through hypnotic programs called Brain Software. Whether or not you believe in hypnosis, the content is always provocative and interesting. And one episode that's always stood out to me is the episode about the use of metaphor in hypnotism.
When we talk about metaphors specifically with hypnosis, we are using one example or one story, typically quite short, as a means of creating a comparison with something happening in the person's life and a solution we wish to create.
The hypnotic metaphor isn't meant to look like a literary metaphor. Instead, the connection to its real meaning is obscured and never explained, and is meant to be understood clearly by the subconscious mind, by bypassing the conscious mind entirely. entirely. The idea isn't a new one per se, as you could easily say that the seemingly meaningless Buddhist koans are especially good examples of this type of metaphor, meant to send a student a message that would only appear through isolated subconscious analysis of its metaphoric content. It's simply a way to say one thing but mean another as you pass a message into the subconscious of the listener that is somewhat divorced from the literal meaning and symbol of the words that you're using. This type of metaphor seemed to be the overt intention of Napoleon Hill, who wrote Think and Grow Rich in the early 20th century. And despite its age, this book is still widely suggested as a sort of classic in these circles. And I even had one of my uplines once refer to it as his and our Bible, which was a little odd because he's a Christian. Anyways, after reading it, you'll perhaps begin to see how the seeds of the ideas of the book play out in a lot of other self-help and motivational books that have been written after, while at the same time, in its turn-of-the-century setting and some interesting neuro-mystical pseudoscience, it still manages to be an interesting read alongside newer works. The reason that I suggest that this book is a hypnotic metaphor is because of the author's continued insistence that the real message of the book isn't something that he can outright tell you, but a lesson that you must learn through experiencing the book as a whole, like a big picture that can only be placed in your mind through suggestion and illustration. Hill's story is perhaps even more effective on many levels because of this choice to weave in the very personal narratives, like the story of his son who was born deaf but taught himself to talk and build a prototype hearing aid that he was able to sell to a company and get a job bringing it to market. It's this focus on the rare examples, the miracles of this prosperity religion, these against all odds narratives that makes the book compelling as it sinks into your head. Seeing all of these examples of people using simple determination to reach their sometimes seemingly impossible goals makes you say to yourself, if all of them can do it, why couldn't I?
You know, for anyone caught up in one of these right now, they're gonna tell you that it's you, that this system works and you're not working it hard enough. And I'm telling you right now, they're abusers and they're lying to you. That's a common thing, and you're being lied to. You're being suckered.
Success comes to those who become success conscious. Failure comes to those who indifferently allow themselves to become failure conscious. The object of this book is to help all who seek it learn the art of changing their minds from failure consciousness to success consciousness.
I want to talk about a millionaire mindset. Because if you got involved in Kayana to become a jade, you're selling yourself short. If you got involved in Kayana to become a diamond, you're not thinking big enough yet. If you haven't already visualized yourself at double black diamond, you need to kick yourself in the rear.
Think and Grow Rich is an inspiring book that drives you to act exceptionally and to have exceptional goals. Its philosophy, its metaphor, has a lot of really good things to say, or about as many as a book that's nearly 100 years old might. At its core, it seems to preach that the winner is ultimately the person who goes one step beyond even expectations, will always achieve their goals, eventually. A big part of this philosophy is the idea of never giving up, which with determination often being the vital extra step they need, and that our handicaps can be overcome through effort and a dedication to a singular purpose, or a burning desire as he calls it. Like I said before, Think and Grow Rich was fertile ground from which the industry of self-help and inspirational books of the 20th century and beyond have grown. And it's these self-help books and their gospel of meritocracy that many of these MLMs shove down new converts' throats, because it builds in a framework to the conversation. I've been working hard, but I haven't made a sale.
Well, you already know what you have to do. Push past those no's until you get a yes. By the way, have you found any friends who'd want to work for the company?
Yeah, man. I tried that, but my friends aren't answering my calls anymore.
Have you tried going to Walmart? There's always plenty of people there. Strike up a conversation like I showed you at the last meeting. I hear Danny Sosa once got a recruit when his Jaguar got a flat tire. He talked the AAA guy into coming to a meeting, and that decision made him a lot of money. Be like Danny.
It's your fault you didn't make any money. It's your fault you weren't like the new diamond seller. Like the ones they talked about, making their first millions with the companies just to make your poor mouths water. It's your fault you didn't work hard enough to build your own company, go to enough meetings, or expensive company gatherings. And if you did, it's because you didn't show up early to the meetings, or stay an extra day at the lectures, at an extra cost, of course. That's the metaphorical framework they need to indoctrinate you, to make you happy to perform the free labor, to make money for the next Danny Sosa. One of the ideas of a pyramid scheme that's repackaged to a recruit as a plus is this idea that you'll make a fraction of the earnings of everyone under you. So, even when you do make a sale, you'll be sharing that money with 10 or 12 increasingly rich uplines.
How big of a piece of the pie do you going to get when you're fighting with 3.5 million other people, plus 39,000 directors and 600 national directors? The big spots are probably taken, unless you're going to explore the Amazon and introduce Mary Kay products to previously uncontacted Amazonian tribes. You're shit out of luck.
No matter how big you get, on a structural level, you will always be making the money. Get a few enthusiastic people under you, move up in the pyramid, and eventually you won't have to work at all. You can shift to a mentoring role, encouraging new recruits, maybe even passing along to them your battered copy of Think and Grow Rich so that they can learn the MLM's internal language, just like you had to. Someday you can be so rich that you can pass down nuggets of wisdom to a squad of 100 people to whom you're an upline on a weekend conference call, and then go fuck off for a week and still have all the bills paid. You'll be able to make sales and get recruits even when you get a flat tire, because your Jaguar has that big wallet energy like Danny Sosa's. Once you've drank that Kool-Aid, they're more open about this. It's sold as a feature, not a bug. But not only that, it's meant to be seen as a reward for your tremendous free labor now. Labor today, leisure tomorrow. Because deep down, we all want to hear that we deserve a life of luxury, especially when we live a life of crippling poverty. But what we don't consider is the thousands of hours of free labor those below us in the pyramid are contributing with faith in the prosperity gospel to make us that fortunate that we have come to depend on. By the time that you're considering this outcome, the company has you thinking of yourself as a moral crusader, job creator, economic white knight, making money so that you can give back in charitable donations, tax write-offs, and giving people access to the opportunity to think that they can become you. And isn't that just a public service? Still, they treat it as though some force of will get you to the top of the pyramid, a position that has been taken by design since the company was founded. It's just not structurally possible for you to do what they're promising to you. No matter how much auto-suggestion everyone in America does, or how much we repeat the mantras of wealth prosperity, we still live in a scarcity-based system. It would take trillions of dollars for each member of these companies to be able to make $1 million, even with an equal distribution of funds, which a pyramid is set up expressly to inhibit. But you're never shown the odds, just the winners. You have no upward mobility in a pyramid scheme, but you do, however, have the ability to build below yourself through recruiting and taking numerous starting or recurring fees. So the only way off the bottom is to build another bottom below you. Still, everyone who's really committed to one of these companies sees themselves as a future millionaire, if they work hard enough, because they believe that they can really have anything if they're clever, persistent, and always willing to go one step further.
Throughout this philosophy will be found the suggestion that thought, backed by strong desire, has a tendency to transmute itself into its physical equivalent. Observe very closely. As soon as you master the principles of this philosophy and begin to follow the instructions for applying those principles, your financial status will begin to improve, and everything you touch will begin to transmute itself into an asset for your benefit. Impossible? Not at all.
One thing that I really did enjoy, for better or for worse, was the sort of worship of self-improvement that this sort of culture follows. The sense of personal empowerment can feel so good, like a drug meant to keep you numb to the one simple fact. No matter how well you do, your actions will only trickle up and pay for the elaborate vacations of the 1% of the company that got in first and were able to quickly establish control of an area. You forget that even though you have the opportunity in theory to become rich just like them, even if you did, doing so would only make them wealthier from your labor. The system will only produce the results it was designed to, and pyramid schemes are elaborately designed to take from the humble masses who want to believe in themselves again and give to a select few. And even if you manage through some arcane ritual to get to the top, it comes at the theft of the value of hundreds, if not thousands, or even in some case millions of people's labor. It seems like you can overcome them, that at some point through hard work and merit you might be able to overtake them. But outside of incredibly rare instances that they will rub in your face as if they were the norm, the very system that you're operating in is designed so that this can never happen. A pyramid scheme, once established, will only ever do one thing, and that's make the rich richer by giving incentive to a relative few to join the middle class by exploiting as many of the poor as they can drag to their meetings and seminars. This almost mystical sense that comes from reading Think and Grow Rich. It's the idea of reprogramming the brain using rituals in a process called autosuggestion, an idea that came into popularity in another form with the New Age movement under ideas like mantras and affirmations. He believed that autosuggestion was the only voluntary way to cultivate faith, which he saw as essential to achieving your long-term goals. Because to do something, you must on some level believe that you can, but even more, you must have an unerring faith that you will. Perhaps it'd be best of all, as this gives you a feeling of comfort instead of ill ease when you go all in on your dreams. Through this, the MLM programs you to believe in this cult of meritocracy and pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, and trying to hide from you or spin the fact that no matter how well you do, you'll always be making the rich richer through no real work of their own. You're made to develop a faith that the system, the company, can make you rich. They make you money conscious, so that they can more easily guide you with the carrot of wealth and success. And that faith that they're having you cultivate in the system encourages you to ignore numerous red flags. So as someone who has read the book, which makes many allusions to its secret that all successful people seem to know, something it will never directly tell you but only lead you to understand, what is the meaning in the metaphor and how is it supposed to help or change us? Well, if you believe in the principles of hypnotic metaphor, knowing the meaning or purpose on a conscious level removes its ability to really change you, because that change can only happen when it's taken in the subconscious without the critical overview of the conscious mind. So because of that, if you want to read the book independently and have it take its proper effect, skip ahead. But I think the underlying idea is this: if you train your mind to recognize opportunities for success and pursue them as you see them, then you can manifest your desires more easily into reality. I don't think it's entirely wrong, because if the system were fair and egalitarian, that might be the best advice you could give. But you're not in a fair and egalitarian system. You're in a system that was designed by a tiny percentage at the top to slowly trickle your money into their pockets. Still, it's really an empowering message that has been repeated time and time again, with more or less focus on the idea of metaphysical manifestation or transmutation, as the book also references. The problem is that thinking the answer for everyone is just to work harder causes you to miss why some people have to work so much harder than others for nothing, and why some, almost just by the virtue of tenure with the company, get rich just by thinking about it, like the book's title might imply. I remind you that there's no real upward mobility in a pyramid scheme, only the ability for people in the middle to abuse the labor of the people on the bottom for the perpetual benefit of the people on the top. The sense of upward mobility you may feel is only based on the merits of your ability to build more pyramid underneath you, pushing yourself and everyone above you up relative to the bottom. But what you're really doing is increasing the poverty below you to make yourself feel like you've come up. But outside of that context, the idea of building towards a singular goal over the years that tuning your mind to see the opportunities for success has a serious impact on your ability to achieve success. But focusing too hard to yourself in this way causes you to begin to avert your eyes to the systemic issues that might be keeping you in a system that only really works out well for the top 10% or less. Because as much as I like the idea of following one's own burning desire, if you're looking to get out of poverty, there's no amount of Sisyphean rock pushing that will ever allow you to place yourself on top of that pyramid, much less balance your burdensome rock atop it without it beginning to roll back down. So I guess what I'm really saying here is, you can probably do anything you want if you try hard enough, but at the same time, you should pick your battles.
Alright, you know what to do by now. It's YouTube. Leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and check out the links in the description.
Well, share this video with 10 people that you care about, that you love, that you adore, that you admire. 20 people, 30 people. Come on, what are you waiting for? 100 people.
Napoleon Hill. Guy sounds like a huge con artist.